Harry and Meghan News handling two serious post-divorce issues of Sussex. Hello, friends! Welcome to breaking royal news about the notorious hypocritical couple, Harry and Meghan Markle, on our Kate Middleton and the Queen News version 2 channel. If the prenup says Meghan gets $15M in the event of a divorce, but Harry is broke and can't pay her $15M, how does that work? Does he have to pay in installments, or is the debt canceled? If the court is satisfied with proof that Harry doesn't have $15 million, nor can he pay it, then yes, the debt is canceled. It's been proven in court repeatedly that family wealth is external and protected in a divorce. Tessa of Luxembourg tried to argue in court that the Luxembourg royal family is super wealthy, and therefore she and the kids should be paid serious money, $200 million, based on ex-husband Prince Louis's royal family wealth. The court threw out her case and made clear that his family wealth had naught to do with the prince, even though his married life had been funded and lavishly gilded by that same family wealth. The Luxembourg royals had the same deal as British royal family, where members have all the perks and money as long as they remained part of the family. A divorce meant cutting off Tessa. In the end, she got between £3K, £6K per child per month, and education trusts, no house or alimony. Similar deal with Fergie and Diana, where the divorce settlement was predicated on the personal wealth of their husbands and not the royal family's wealth or trusts. Fergie got peanuts compared to Diana because Andrew's personal wealth was not. The Queen adored Fergie, and Andrew being his favorite son meant that exception was made for B and E as far as the trusts created for them due to the divorce plus education and day-to-day living costs. All this was made public knowledge at the time. I'll also add that Fergie and Andrew didn't want to divorce, but her series of public embarrassments culminating in the public revelation of her two affairs, Steve Wyatt, horse-riding photos with B therein and financial advisor, toe-sucking with B and E in the pictures, was a red line for the family, and their divorce was ordered. No mediation or couples therapy. Andrew begged the Queen to rescind the order, but this is one of the few times she stood her ground and insisted upon the divorce. But the way it was handled was very amicable. Fergie kept her HRH, she briefly moved out, but then moved back in. She continued to attend private royal family affairs, including Sandringham Christmas, but kept out of sight, etc. Fergie's HRH was not part of the divorce agreement, and for a few months afterward she was HRH Sarah, Duchess of York, but Diana voluntarily gave up her own HRH as part of her divorce negotiations because she wanted to cut all ties with the royal family. A few weeks later, she was hit with the reality of the lost status of not being HRH and ran to the media to run a campaign about those mean royals taking her HRH title away and even invoking William in her media games. She hoped the media would bully the Queen into giving it back. Instead, the Queen amended the letter patent to add that anyone divorcing an HRH automatically lost their own, which unfortunately took Fergie's post-divorce HRH too. Diana got a better divorce settlement because Charles was personally wealthy, unlike his siblings. While he couldn't touch the Duchy of Cornwall assets to fund the divorce, he'd built up personal wealth separate from the duchy, and that is what he gave Diana in the divorce. He had to borrow cash from the Queen to do it, but he didn't touch duchy assets. Haya of Dubai was divorcing a man so extremely wealthy that he makes the royals look like paupers in comparison. And the judge didn't allow her serious money in consideration of his wealth. Frankly, I thought she got very little. 9/10 of her settlement was restricted to security matters, as the judge recognized that her ex is a clear and present danger, and she'll need that level of security for the rest of her life. Take that sum out of the equation, and she barely cleared £50M for herself. All this to say that Meghan hoping for a royal family settlement on her should she divorce Harry is delusional. She'll get a settlement based upon his private wealth and not a penny more. And if it turns out that she has more than him, she'll end up paying him. Happens all the time in California divorces Egg Halle Berry. Meghan also has several negatives that mean her family won't play gall egg her direct attacks on them, her personality, the bullying report, etc. The division of property was clear. Now it was a matter of adoption of the children. Some people sent the long rant calling Harry out for being a shit dad. There is not much evidence to show he is better at raising those kids. And raising the kids is what's important, not having a better rapport with them while they are toddlers. In Spare, Harry thanks his kids for allowing him to be an absent father. Most of this book was done during the lockdown, on Zoom, and later the ghostwrites stayed in their guest house. The kids were younger than 3 years old, so what is Harry's excuse for being an absent father when the rest of the world was pretty much forced to stay at home? Where was he? He stays in hotels hours away and admitted himself in awe that he was an absent parent. Whenever he mentioned the kids, he came across as not knowing anything about kids, like when he said that a 6-month-old Archie was admiring the scenery in Vancouver. LOL, kids are a lot of work, and he's lazy and probably gets bored after spending 15 minutes with them. So I don't get why it's assumed that he's a more involved parent, and frankly why people even want him to be. This is a guy who fantasized about blowing up his father and seemed to be high all the time in his book, and you just know that in reality, his drug use is likely to be much worse. He beat up his bodyguards and abused animals and allegedly sex workers. He's filled with so much resentment and hate for his family that it's pretty much guaranteed that he'd poison those kids too with it. He didn't care about their safety when he boasted about killing the Taliban. This guy is an unstable, violent, hateful, and reckless drug addict. He's utterly unfit to be a parent. She could well be worse, but so far there's nothing factually to assume that he's a better and more involved parent. The better scenario for the kids in the circumstances would probably be benign neglect by their parents, with a loving nanny raising them instead. On that note, and generally speaking, I see it all the time. People assuming that he's somehow better than her just because, and it frankly amazes me at this point. He's not, and is arguably worse since it's his family that they've been abusing and trying to destroy, and the way he had treated his grandparents in their final years is just unconscionable and frankly unforgivable. But people can't seem to get away from his old PR-created persona even when it has since been revealed to be a mirage and make the assumption based on that. But it just shows how much better and more successful a con man he is than her, for whom it takes all 5 minutes for most people to see through. Remember how he smirked when he said that people didn't know the real him in an interview years ago? Yeah, even now many seem willing to get conned yet again and think that somehow the good lad Harry will be back after deprogramming once she's gone. And that's one of the reasons why I don't want them to divorce. I have no doubt that most of the now anti-Sussex crowd will turn around and be back to babying this asshole and blaming it all on her. And I believe he knew that he could always count on that when he married her, and that's why he's the worst. He's weaponized her against those who had done nothing but cared for him while also using her as a shield and to whitewash himself, and will use her as a scapegoat in the end, 'cause it's what he always does. He never takes responsibility for anything in his life, and that's why he's unredeemable. He doesn't deserve all that goodwill, and it's utterly wasted on him since he will undoubtedly squander it all again after a while, like he always had, because the problem is, and has always been, him. And the problem with him is that he's a vicious asshole who doesn't a damn about anyone other than himself. And his problem, the main reason for this saga, is his deep-seated envy and futile desire to best his brother, the outcome of which had already been decided the moment they were born. If you back years, you can see videos where, when the Wales kids are present, Harry is standing in the backyard making faces and scowling at them. This was before Meghan. I remember a TTC video I watched, and I saw Harry and I felt I was having some sort of cognitive dissonance. Was it just me who thought he looked mean there? Why wasn't anyone commenting on it? Once I'd seen it, I couldn't unsee it. Someone who is jealous and resentful of someone else's kids can't be all that nice in the long run. He might be all fun and games now, but kids grow up. They are a lot of work. They need constant care, and they absorb a lot. All of this epic saga we are seeing over the past 5-6 years is rooted in Harry's resentment of his family. Or rather, Harry's narcissism. Men like him aren't all that rare. You may have come across someone like this in your own life, Someone who seemingly out of the blue did something horrible but had a ready excuse of being ensnared by a vile woman. We see this all too often in horrible cases across the world. But you think back, and you realize that these men were just good at hiding it. They do not care. They are constitutionally incapable of caring. They don't snap. They reveal their true colors at a convenient time. And even if convicted or exposed, their excuse forever will be something or someone else. Harry's excuse forever will be Meghan. But some, me included, who met him before will know and remember what our experience was. Mine was an intuitive feeling that he was just going through the motions but wasn't interested in bringing anything to the table. He thought everyone was beneath him, and that his presence was all that was needed. He appeared in fun in pictures and videos released, but in actual reality was bored, did not participate, and did not give anyone his time or attention. I'm talking about a charity appearance, by the way, not a personal equation in a private capacity, which I don't have with him. Just a participant at an event and earlier what I saw at Diamond Jubilee in 2012. However, an insider suggested that Harry relates to the kids more easily than Meghan. If there's one thing he has taken from his working royal years, it's his social skills. He has the ability to talk and connect with people of all ages and backgrounds, and that probably includes his children. The problem is the parenting part. When things get hard, he ditches. Meghan, on the other hand, doesn't do the parenting and sucks at socializing unless it involves charming old men. Meghan literally ignored a child who was in her face and pulling her hair because she dislikes kids so much. Harry is probably more hands and caring, but I don't think either of them are stellar parents. They had those kids for all the wrong reasons. Although once an absent father, Harry seems to be very focused on being a dad, and if it wasn't for her needing his public profile to further her ambitions, not to mention support their lifestyle, I think he would be quite content living a private life out of the spotlight. I think a lot of new parents can relate to Harry's desperate attempts to protect his family. There is something that changes in you once your child is born, even beforehand, and I can see how it might have sent him crazy. Now that he is a little more seasoned in parenting, I think he is looking back with a lot of clarity, especially after writing the book. He might now realize a lot of his insecurities, burdens of responsibility, and guilt were caused by Meghan. Like you said, he was under the impression that she was a good mother, and like him just trying to protect her child only to now see that Archie was never the focus of her agenda to get out of the UK. I honestly believe she has been a huge letdown as a wife and mother, a lot like Doria, and has been completely uninterested in those children from the get-go. She's probably been feeding Harry a lot of progressive crap so he feels like a feminist and therefore complies with the whole stay-at-home dad thing while she is focusing on being a fame whore masquerading as a philanthropist. She also mentioned in her first podcast, Ambition, that Harry mentioned something about, why can't you be both a mother and a model, referring to the photo shoot where she felt out of her depth. Bullshit. She's also been playing on this nerdy mom thing, and to me, they all seem like look over here tactics. I think over time, the disconnect between her and the kids has taken its toll on Harry. I would not be surprised if that's been a huge tension point in their marriage for a while. Meghan never seems genuine when talking about anything, but especially Harry and the kids. It's not feeling like a fairly new mom to two young kids who are ecstatic. Like something about her just feels sinister. She absolutely seems like a narc mom, which can be incredibly damaging to kids. Really, really hope those kids and Harry get out before the kids are old enough to really start taking her behavior to heart. They have a whole huge family full of grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, and etc. in England that can give them such a better childhood experience than whatever the hell is going down in California. And I don't mean that financially. I just mean I thoroughly believe behind closed doors in private, the British royal family is just like any family and seem to have each other's back, especially when it comes to the young kids coming up. An excellent example of this would be the entire British royal family apparently rallying around William and Harry after Diana died up at Balmoral, taking care of them and helping them grieve. If they continue in this marriage, Both Harry and Meghan robbed those kids of having precious time with their grandparents. They don't need to rob them of growing up with their cousins. Those kids seem to have no friends or family around them, and I'm sure Harry can see how unhealthy that is. Yes, her excessive enthusiasm as a mom is something I too have noticed and found rather off. The strangest thing was her NYT opinion piece, The Losses We Share, where she talks about her supposed miscarriage, which was a very superficial attempt at trying to be relatable and came across as another one of Meghan's storybook tales. Everything about her is so staged to look relatable. This might be a hot take, but I don't want too much relativeness out of royalty or even ex-royalty. Yes, of course I expect them to be down to earth, sweet and charming, but I also think once again it takes the whole mystique and allure out of the whole concept of royalty when you know too much about their daily routines and they try to be too quirky and caught up with the times. I feel like she's a person that's too caught up in the luxury of celebrity than the luxury of royalty. Meaning she doesn't understand that a lot of things with royalty are supposed to be private, and you release what you want people to know about you only in small doses. You kept it really cute and classy. It's a good rule to follow for everyone. I love the concept of bringing awareness to pregnancy loss. It needs to be spoken about, just not layered with absolute mindlessness on top of it about how her life is so relatable in her California mansion that the likes of people like me could ever only dream of. Or sly shots at her ex-life in the royal family living in palaces and beautiful cottages, and how that was just so absolutely terrible. Which, yet again, is something 90% of the world could only ever dream of having the privilege of experiencing. I'd much rather see a royal family member out doing work for underprivileged people than constantly spewing out morning routines that they probably don't follow themselves. I'm an American. I love a lot of Californians. I just don't like her particular brand of West Coast girls. And if you know what I mean, you know. It's that superficial, privileged, weird valley girl shtick that kills my vibe. The divorce will be a spectacular, long drawn-out battle. I think there will be a lot of speculation and debate on our part regarding the divorce settlement and custody arrangements. Then they will individually need to rebuild their lives, which should be interesting to watch from afar. Hopefully, those children will have an opportunity to play with other children and have a somewhat normal childhood. Their current situation seems unhealthy and isolated. Megs will become kind of irrelevant, but will still pop up here and there in cringe situations, and we'll get to witness her snag another unsuspecting fool while we all scream "run" from the sidelines. Meg's lies will be never-ending. A leopard doesn't change its spots. So identifying her lies will continue to be a source of entertainment. I'm expecting lots of future drama and plenty for us to discuss. What do you think could happen when Harry and Meghan get a divorce? Let us know your thoughts below in the comments section. We hope you have found this helpful video. Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you like it. Thank you for watching this newsletter. See you in the next videos. Goodbye.